Welcome to the video. The question every Premier League fan is thinking at the moment is, will Tottenham Hotspur get relegated? In this video, we will do an overview of Spurs and their current situation and come to the conclusion whether or not they will actually be relegated. Tottenham Hotspur have been in the top division for 48 consecutive years, last being relegated in the 1976-1977 season under manager Keith Birkinshaw, where they finished 22nd in the league with just 33 points from 42 games. But then returned straight back to the top flight a year later, placing third in the second division in the 1977-1978 season. They have come close to relegation on several occasions since then, coming 14th in the 1997-1998 season under manager Christian Gross, who took over in November, finishing just 4 points above the drop, and also coming 14th in the 2003-2004 season under manager David Pleat, who took over in September. However, the closest Spurs have come to relegation was last year in the 2024-2025 season, where they finished 17th, just 1 place above the relegation zone above the 3 newly promoted sides, which posed as a warning sign for a potential relegation which is clear to see this season. Relegation for Spurs would be detrimental for the club for many reasons. From a financial aspect, they would lose the income from any European competitions which they have been consistently involved in throughout the years, even winning the Europa League last year versus Manchester United and making it to the round of 16 this year, having a very good campaign in the group stage phase, which accumulated a substantial amount of funds, gaining £16.15 million for their participation in the league phase, £19.7 million for their performance in the group, plus another £9.5 million for qualifying to the group stage, which resulted in the club getting £45.45 million before broadcast revenue. They also earned £29.75 million from the previous year for winning the Europa League, including their performance throughout the whole competition. Therefore, they're going to be losing all this potential revenue. As well, there will be a massive gap in money earned from their performance in the Championship compared to the Premier League. Even if they manage to win the Championship, they will earn only a fraction of what they would earn in the Premier League. Even for coming last in the Premier League, you earn around £3 million. And the position that Spurs finished last year in 17th would get the club finishing in this position around 11 million. This is just for the positioning at the end of the season, not including any other revenue sources for being in the Premier League. This is much more, which makes it even more important for Spurs to stay in the Premier League. There will also be a potential loss of sponsorship revenue because the Championship doesn't have anywhere near the same viewing as the Premier League. And also, ticket sales will drop, as less Spurs fans will want to go to games if they are in the Championship, and there aren't as many fans for most of the teams in the Championship compared to the Premier League, so it will be more difficult to fill the away end, especially because with their new stadium being so huge at a whopping 68,850 capacity. Another daunting reality will be that players will want to leave, especially the better players in the team, and they do have quite a few good players like Dominic Solanke, Richarlison, Christian Romero, Van de Ven, Xavi Simons, and Jed Spence, that may even have relegation clauses in their contract, and the club will also be much less attractive transfer for players. So Tottenham's team will get significantly worse on the pitch, making promotion back to the Premier League more difficult. If you take into account Spurs' expenditures from recent years, this will also explain how the relegation will be negatively impactful for Spurs, as just from transfers alone, in the past 5 years, Spurs have spent the 5th most in the world, only behind Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, and Paris Saint-Germain, spending €1.11 billion on players with only €346 million income from transfers coming in, with a net spend of minus €763 million. which is the third worst net spend from a football club in the world across the past 5 years, with Chelsea and Manchester United having the worst. The new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium was also said to have cost £1.2 billion, reported by club owner Daniel Levy, which is also another huge expenditure that the club has made on top of player wages that add up to around £150 million, with the highest paid players being Christian Romero and Xavi Simons, earning £195,000 a week. Tottenham Hotspur currently sits 17th in the league, 1 point off West Ham, who are at the top of the relegation zone, with 7 games remaining for every team heading into the international break. It's not certain, but it's looking like Wolves and Burnley are already relegated, due to Burnley being 9 points away from 18th and Wolves being 12 points away from 18th. Also, Crystal Palace are 6 points clear of Leeds at 14th, with a much stronger goal difference. So, although Crystal Palace could go further down due to their recent poor form, it is likely that the 4 teams fighting for the Premier League survival spots are Leeds, Nottingham Forest, West Ham and Spurs, with 4 points difference between all 4 teams. Leeds currently sit 15th in the table with 33 points. They have some tough games remaining, having to go to Old Trafford away. However, I would say that Leeds probably have the easiest fixtures out of the 4 teams still having to play Wolves and Burnley at Elland Road, then Spurs and West Ham away from home. So I can definitely see Leeds picking up some crucial points towards the end of the season, with their home record being pretty good this season, and they have already beaten Wolves and West Ham. So I think they will stay up. Nottingham Forest are 16th in the league with 32 points. They probably have the hardest fixtures remaining, still having to play Villa, United and Chelsea, and are still in the Europa League, which will mean their players will be more fatigued in the remaining games. However, they just have managed to get a crucial 3-0 win against Spurs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And look, they could get some results in the upcoming games, especially to Burnley at home. So, although I think it will be challenging, I think Forest will also stay up. West Ham are currently placed 18th in the league with 29 points and are yet to face some tough opposition like Arsenal and Everton, but also have some good opportunities to gain points, with games against Wolves and Leeds at home, and with Crystal Palace's recent performance, they could also get a result there. West Ham's recent form has been good as well, managing to win 4 games, draw 3 games, and lose 3 games in their last 10 matches in the league, scoring 14 goals. Therefore, I think West Ham will also beat the drop and survive relegation. Now let's take a look at Spurs. In terms of their fixtures yet to play, they have difficult games versus Chelsea, Villa, Brighton, Everton and Sunderland, which I really struggle to see Spurs winning any of these games, maybe acquiring a few points from draws. The more winnable games for Spurs will be against Leeds and Wolves. However, if we look at recent form, I wouldn't be surprised if Spurs don't win any of these games, with Wolves only losing 1 of their last 6, and Leeds only losing 3 out of their last 10 games. Then, if you have a look at Tottenham's recent form, they haven't won a Premier League game this calendar year, with their last win against Crystal Palace in December last year, which is terrible form. Having said this, I think they will be relegated for the first time in almost 50 years, as I just do not think they are good enough compared to the other teams they are fighting against. Looking at both sides of the argument, if you wanted to make a case for Spurs staying up, there are some positives. Spurs have just won the Europa League last year, showing they can turn up in big games, and their Champions League form this year was actually really good, managing to come 4th in the league phase, only losing 1 game, and also beat Atletico Madrid in one of the legs in the knockout stage. So they are clearly capable of winning games. Plus, they are now out of the Champions League, so they will now be less fatigued going into games and will have more energy. Also, they have just sacked their manager, Igor Tudor, which I think is a massive positive, as his form was unbelievably bad. I think the new manager coming in will decide Tottenham's fate now. Personally, I would bring in Harry Redknapp until the end of the season. He knows the club inside out and has managed for many years in the top division and knows how to win games. However, regardless of their manager appointment, I think Spurs still go down. Thanks for watching the video, and comment below whether or not you think Spurs get relegated and who you would appoint as the new Spurs manager.